Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a Leopold deck profile. This deck profile is of the winning list that I took to BSF Sydney. Big shout out to Toby and Gabriel, amazing teammates. We each kind of carried each other and we got the job done. So really cool now that I have a Rebirth champion PR. But this is the deck that I've been wanting to play for a while now. I never really find the chance to use it because each of the other formats, the last format was like Steam Maiden, and yeah, just never got to really play this deck. So it's Leopold. This deck was amazing to me yesterday. Absolutely loved me. Pretty much got everything all the way until the finals, and then the finals it didn't love me. So I think it just kind of, had enough of me for the day, and yeah, that was pretty much how my finals game went. But the other two picked up the slack and kind of got it. So we're just going to go through the deck list and then just kind of go through my tournament report as well. Just kind of how I fared through the day. And yeah, starting off, we play 4 Leopold Reverse, the main star of the deck. The card is pretty insane. Pretty much when it was released, generating 2 excels in the same turn, as opposed to decks like Thabas or Luard. Well, Luard, I guess, like generates 2 force a turn. But yeah, creating multiple excels, hyper compression with the top 5 called 2, and then I half persona ride, so plus 5k to the front row, and then itself getting a crit, and then pretty much turns everything that you mill into all types, which means that you can be a little bit more selective on, the effects of some of your other cards. And then we play 4 Tester Fox. Tester Fox is, this card is so solid. Pretty much allows you for super good advantage, because then you CB1, you return 2, 1 trigger, 1 normal, or 2 units. And then if you return 1 normal, 1 trigger, then you call the Research Fox, which is the grade 2, which I'll go through in a bit. And then pretty much it has a second ability where you can Soul Blast 1, give a unit 10k, retire it, and then if it's the Research Fox, draw 1. Goes hand in hand together, as Legion should be. And yeah, sometimes this fixes numbers so that numbers can hit over damage triggers, which is super important in this deck, especially if it's an Excel matchup into a Force, and that actually does matter a lot. And then 3 Leopolds, kind of need more Leopold, but obviously playing 4 is kind of bricky, so I think 3 is a nice number. Being able to find the Leopold so that you can activate Leopold Reverse's ability just by locking a Leopold unit on your board makes it all worthwhile. So that's the grade 3s, and then as I said before, so we run 4 of the Researcher Fox. This card is pretty much a barcode zebra on an Excel circle, so each time you mill, it gains 5k, and then its ability is when it is retired, I can Canvas 1, search for a copy of the Vanguard, which means that I can set up a Leopold for next turn, but as well is really important because I can search my Leopold Reverse, and if for some reason my Leopold dies, then I have a backup plan. I can just call the Leopold Reverse to the rear guard, and then my engine still keeps going. So this is really, really important. And then just as important, I run 4 of the Parakeet. On play, CB1, top 7 for a grade 3, add it to hand, and against plus 3. I always need to find my Leopolds, so this is like super important. But as well, like in the early game, if you play this, and then an 8k at the back, like say Mini Belly or Kakapo, it becomes 20. So it hits over force numbers. Really, really important. And then because 20, you can't just like 15k no pass, makes it really, really awkward for the opponent to guard, especially if they don't have a heal guardian. So that is Parakeet. And then, just as I said before, barcode zebra. I think these two in conjunction with each other means that I have bigger rear guards to kind of attack with, and then this card makes it so that you put it in front of the lock circle, because obviously you don't have a booster on that side, and it just makes the numbers much better, because if you mill 2, right, it becomes 19, and then pseudo 5k from Leopold Reverse which essentially makes it 24. You hit a front 34. Yeah, super strong. And I'll talk about some of my deck choices later, and why I didn't include certain stuff. But yeah, that'll be later on in the video. For mini belly, you need to find your Leopolds. It's also really good on an XL because it's a 13 plus 5 from the XL is 18, and then 18 plus the 5 from Leopold is 23. Hits numbers against 4, super important. But as well, you place it behind like a Tester Fox. It is 25 by itself, 30k with the Leopold. Great researcher so that you can find all your 3s, and then later on in the game you can start digging for your 3s and compress your deck. Super important. And then probably the MVP of the deck is the Lemur. So the Lemur skill is when it's placed on rear guard, you can mill a card from the top deck. If it is a normal unit, you can soul charge 1. If it's a trigger unit, you can counter charge 1. But the good thing is that Leopold turns everything into all types, so you can be selective on what you choose, and it's majority of the time counter charge 1. This card saved me so badly in the top 8. Pretty much top deck this card 2 turns straight because the Luard player pretty much denied me with no CB, and then yeah, this card just made the deck go wild, and yeah, my opponent's damage denying didn't really work. This card is super strong because later on, if you mill it, you can start going through your deck, and then you start using your Tester Fox to return a normal unit. And because Leopold, when you lock a unit and you mill, the cards that you mill count as all types of units. So you can actually return 2 triggers off this, because one of the trigger units milled off Leopold's skill counts as a normal unit. So it means that you can start going through your deck, get it low to like 2 cards, and then return 2 fronts. And then your deck is pretty much full fronts. MVP of the deck, must run. This card is crazy. And then probably the most controversial card that I play in my list is Clerical Kakapo. So big shout out to Solemn for giving me the exact 50. This card is pretty nuts. So the skill is, when it's placed, put the top card of your deck into the drop zone, so mill. If it's a normal unit, draw a card, discard. But if it's a trigger unit, draw 1 and mulligan 1 to the bottom of deck. So why is this important? Is because you can, in the early game, you can draw 1 and then discard or filter through your hand. If you don't have Leopold, it's more ways to find it. If you don't have certain cards, it's more ways to find it. But this, in the late game, is cracked. So you can play it, draw 1, and then put fronts to the bottom, and then start shuffling with your mini belly, your Tester Fox, and then pretty much your whole deck is fronts. But mainly this really came up clutch in the early game because I can just place it behind the Vanguard, mill 1, trying to dig for my Leopolds, and that means in conjunction with mini belly, I actually go through 7 cards in the deck, and within the 7 cards, it's equivalent to using a Parakeet. So these 2 in conjunction allows me to find my Leopold reverse, which is probably the most important thing in the deck, which obviously didn't happen in the finals, but that's fine. So that's that. And then for triggers, pretty simple. 4 heroes, 4 draws, 8 fronts. 8 fronts, no extra crits, because the deck just has so many attacks, and with ridiculous numbers, there's no need for crits, and then obviously a V-star. So one of the talking points is, why am I not running Binoculars Tiger? And it is purely because it costs a CB. Sure, you can like start retiring units, you can draw cards. This deck itself focuses on drawing by not committing cards from your hand to the board, because you have a top 5 search for 2, and then you obviously have Tester Fox, which in your hand doesn't have any shield value, but then you pretty much call this and then refund this for draw 1. So your hand size is actually pretty big. But the thing is that the important part is the retire. And I find that because not a lot of people play Melody, not a lot of people play anything that is worth retiring. I didn't find the need for Binoculars Tiger, but also Australian players are pretty smart. They try to damage deny you, and so they did in I think top 8 and top 4. Both Luar players denied me at 0, and that got really annoying. So being selective with essentially what you use for your CB is really important. I find that just having a consistency buffer in the parakeet to find your grade 3s, and then an advantage engine in Tester Fox. So you're pretty much using 1, 2, 3 counterblasters in the deck, and you actually run 3 heaps. And I want to play super minimalistic because there's no point in retiring a 5k when you can use the CB1 for like something else that can generate you an extra card, which is equivalent to, you know, retiring one anyways. But it's more like you +1 instead of your opponent -1, and I think that's really, really important. So just some matchups throughout the day. So the first round I played against Pinot Noir. Yeah, super crazy. He G-assisted twice, and pretty much that was the end of the game. Didn't see any triggers, and I think he checked like 3 blanks. And yeah, I just had the nuts. I had double Leopold with Researcher Fox, Zebra. I pretty much had everything, lemurs to countercharge, stayed low, and yeah, it wasn't even a threat at all. So that was that. So my round 2 was a Luard, and I guess it was like slightly of an inexperienced Luard, but I think also he really didn't get much. Yeah, it was just super unfortunate. Didn't get Udana into the soul, didn't have front row crit, so pretty much everything was hitting for 1 damage. So it was like pretty unfortunate for him, but otherwise, yeah, it was like, yeah, pretty easy. The third round was against Dungaree, which is pretty crazy. We both kind of like played pretty slow, so he had to ride into Jaggy Shot, and then I rode into Leopold, but I didn't find my other Leopold, so I like didn't use the skill. And then yeah, I had to use the Tester Fox into the Researcher Fox to find my Leopold, but my hand was like 17 cards, and like my deck was like so low. I think I hit a front like for 2 or 3 turns straight, and then pretty much iced the game there. And then the final round was against Brandon Jewel Knights. So that was like a pretty close match. He played exceptionally well, but I think he misplayed on the last turn. He didn't use the Morvidus to Soul Charge 1, which meant that he had 1 less lock, hence giving me the opportunity to PG the Ashley Reverse. Otherwise, I would have been dead that turn. Then top 8 was Luard. This Luard was pretty funny. So I got given 1 damage to use the Parakeet, and I didn't have the Lima. And the Luard player went first, but G-Assistant failed. So it meant that I technically went first. And in that match, he gave me 1 the previous turn, and then passed, which meant I didn't have the CB for Leopold. So I was like, this is a little bit awkward. I have like pretty much everything. I had double Leopold, had the whole play, but I needed a counter charger. So I drew for turn, drew nothing, and I rode Leopold, XL2, drew 1, and then the card that I drew was Lima, and then pretty much I like popped off, right? Did all the skills, blah blah blah. Had a pretty insane turn, and then going into his second turn, he tried to farm with Abyssal Owl, tried to get his hand up. He was at, I think at like 2 damage or so. Did the same thing, and he started attacking to my rear guard because obviously his hand wasn't stable. It wasn't great. So just started attacking to my rear guards, and again, I didn't have Lima. And then I drew for turn, and then the card that I drew was Lima. So I top decked Lima twice, which was absolutely crazy, right? Did my shenanigans. He lived through it because he 6 damage healed with 0 cards in hand. And then he did his turn, went into Drag Driver, got a bunch of stuff out, and then denied me again. And I was like, well, I'm on like 0 damage, and yeah, this is a little bit awkward, right? Drew for turn, drew blank, had a Leopold reverse in hands, I wrote it, XL2, draw 1, and funnily enough, the draw 1 was a Lima. So pretty much I had triple Lima top deck for 3 turns straight, and absolutely like, yeah, I just steamrolled pretty much after that. So that was a pretty funny game, probably the highlight of the day. And then going into the top 4, I played against Justin Mao, super strong player. I was 10k short of guiding through Leopald, so he ended up taking that. I needed to hit a defensive on one of my 2 checks at the end, or I think I had to check 1 extra because I think I checked 1 on the 5th, so I needed to check 2, and my deck was like super compressed, but yeah, you know, super unfortunate, so I ended up losing there. And then in the finals, ended up seeing Brandon again, and he got the revenge. I ended up going second, but then the judges asked to move to the stream table, and then we rolled again, and I went first. And the deck had enough of me. I think it gave me everything for all the previous rounds. Triple Lima in 3 turns straight off a top deck, and decided, you know what? I have to brick 1 game, and it had to be in the finals. Had to ride Tester Fox first, which is kind of annoying. I was contemplating on not taking the 2nd damage early, and that was a Leopold reverse. I could have had it in my hand. Super unfortunate. Ended up having the Leopold, but I just didn't have the Leopold reverse to ride. And yeah, he just like steamrolled me. Went force 2 on Ashley, and then Unga Bunga crit. But you know, OP teammates Gabriel and Toby got the job done, and yeah, hence why I'm sitting here with this prize card. So yeah, big shout out to Solemn again for the exact 50. We had, you know, slight talks on this deck, how he played, the concept of the deck itself, and I think this deck played so well over the weekend, and yeah, I just had the best time of my life. Big shout out again to Gabriel and Toby. Big shout out to Caesar Cards as well. Pretty much the best store. I pretty much get all my SPs from there. So yeah, be sure to support them. They have a website as well, so go check it out. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck profile for the champion list. Great Nature, finally got my Great Nature, and I'm gonna flex on Solemn here. I got the Great Nature top before he did. If you guys like this video, pop a like, comment down below what you think of this deck. If you were at the event, how did you go? And subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.